Hi, I'm Vicky, welcome back to Rocked Up Frocks. In this series I take vintage and pre-loved clothes and give them a makeover. This week I'm here with Kimmy from What Would Blair Do. Kimmy's an amazing camera makeup artist. Go and check out her YouTube channel, I'll put a link below. And you can check out her amazing makeup tutorials. And you've probably seen her work on photo shoots that we've done together as well. In this episode I'm going to be making over this costume for Kimmy. So Kimmy wore this Alice in Wonderland costume for your 30th birthday?
It was my 30th birthday, yep.
Yeah. And now, costumes as well as fashion and clothing are something else that you can recycle, revamp, remake and change into a new costume instead of buying something new. So it's another way to be sustainable. So Kimmy's costume is a really good quality cotton Alice in Wonderland costume. And it's perfect to revamp and recycle. And we're going to turn it into Belle, Belle's peasant dress.
Yes.
So what are we going to do to make it Belle? What's your vision for this dress?
My vision of Belle. Well, I've been obsessed with Beauty and the Beast since I was a child. Obviously, brunette Disney princess up my alley. So I have always kind of envisioned this dress that I might turn it into a peasant Belle or have Vicky turn it into a peasant Belle. So I think what needs to happen is the apron kind of needs to be just a...
Yeah, because Belle's is just a waist.
Yeah, just a waist apron.
So we'll just take this whole top part off.
Yep. Then it's got, her dress has kind of got a square neckline and then the sleeves are taken off.
Yeah.
And then I'll just wear like a white collared shirt underneath.
Perfect. We'll chop the top of this apron off. I'm just going to untie it so we can sort of get an idea of how it's going to look. So we'll take that off and just leave this bottom half of the apron. I'm going to take the sleeves out and re-edge this. Take the collar off and cut this into a square neckline, and then it would look great over Kimmy's white shirt as Peasant Belle.
And there might even be a little bit of fabric left to make a bow for the hair.
Oh, definitely, we can make a bow. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there should be, between the sleeves and what we're taking off here, there should definitely be enough to make a bow for Kimmy's hair. Cool, I'll get sewing, and I'll see you back here soon to show you your dress makeover.
I'm excited.
To change up the apron and make it just into a waist apron, I'm going to unpick all the top parts and then cut them off. I've unpicked all the way along. The back straps were just sewn on really easily, they come off completely. The front part of the apron has been sewn on with the skirt part and overlocked, so I'm just going to cut that out from between these layers and then just chop stitch all the way back along the bottom of here, and that'll be the apron finished. That's what it looks like once I've cut it off. You can see in there where I've cut it from, and once that's folded back and I've chop stitched there, that raw edge will be hidden inside. The first job I'm going to do on the dress is to unpick the sleeves. The sleeves have been stitched in and overlocked in place, so I'm going to undo all that and take them out. This is how I unpicked overlocking. This is the easiest way I've found to do it. You unpick the little stitches here first. And then you'll find that those stitches are holding the other loops in place. So once you've unpicked those stitches, all the threads that go around the edge just come off really easily. I've unpicked the sleeves, and the next job is to cut the neckline to the new shape we want. I've marked with pins on the mannequin where I want the finished edge of the neckline to be. I'm going to fold it in half and cut that out and leave enough seam allowance, and then I'm going to use this bias binding as a facing for the neckline and for the sleeves. Because I won't be able to get the bias binding around a right angle here, I'm just going to cut a little bit of a curve. So it'll be a square neckline but with a slight curve in the corners. By pinning the armholes together, I know it's held perfectly in half, ready to cut it. So that's the turn of my bias binding, so that's how much seam allowance I need to leave as I cut it. And then I'm going to unpick all this around the back, because I don't want to go any lower at the centre back because of the button and buttonhole there. Try and get all the loose threads out as I'm unpicking, because I really hate having to pull them out of seams once you've re-sewn them. Now I've got that side of the collar off, I can see I've got that much left from my seam allowance for the facing around the back, and I'm just going to even that little shape up there. And then I'll press that open just to make it easier to sew. And that's ready to put the facing on. Just put the dress back on the mannequin and double check the neckline. And I've looked at pictures of Belle wearing her peasant dress in the Disney cartoon. And I've decided that I need to cut the neckline a bit wider. And that it was just a little bit too wide over the shoulder as well. So I've marked it with pins. I'm going to fold it in half again and just trim it down, leaving the seam allowance around the armholes and the neckline. I've cut the armhole and the neckline to the new height that we want them. And now I'm going to start pinning the bias binding on ready to edge them. Normally I'd fold that in, but because it's going to end up underneath that facing there, I don't need to. I've also stay stitched around the neckline just so it doesn't stretch as I'm sewing the bias on. Okay, I'm going to pin this all around the neckline, I'm going to pin it all around the armholes, and then I'm going to stitch it on, and my stitching is going to go right in this fold of the bias binding. To pin the bias binding onto the armhole to make the facing, I start at the underarm seam, and you just take your bias and fold the end under. And then pin all the way around, and then when you come back around, once you've pinned all the way around, you'll end up with the other end like that. And then when you fold it to the inside, where the underneath layer was folded in, it makes it a really neat finish, and all your raw edges are hidden. My bias binding facings are all sewn on around the neckline and around both armholes. Next I'm going to go and press them open all the way around. I've pressed all the facings open, and the next thing I'm going to do is turn them to the inside and pin all the way around. And then I'm going to top stitch around the neck and around the armholes to hold the facings in place. And that's going to give us a really neat finish. So bias binding is a really cheap and easy way to finish armholes and necklines like this. Next I'm going to make a bow for Kimmy's hair. I've cut open the sleeves and pressed them flat. And I've drawn a rectangle the size I want the finished bow to be. So now I'm going to cut it out, stitch around this, then turn them in the right way and press them. I'll cut another bit of fabric to make the band for the bow. Then I'll sew it all together onto this little hair clip. I've sewn the rectangle for my bow, turned it in the right way and pressed it. And I've pressed my band here in the centre. Now I need to sew it together. I'm going to hand stitch that and stitch this little clip on the back, and our bow's done. So I'm back here with Kimmy, and we've turned her Alice dress into Belle. Yay! So I've taken the sleeves off, cut the collar off and changed the neckline to the square neckline, taken the top off the apron, and then used the excess fabric from the sleeves to create the bow. What do you think?
I love it! It's like all of my childhood fantasies come to life.
Fantastic. Do you feel like Belle?
I do, absolutely.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So there you go. Even if you've got an old costume, just think of ways that you can change it up to make it into a new costume and rewear it as somebody else instead of going out and buying something new. Or if you're op shopping, maybe look for pieces that you can incorporate in costumes as well, and let your imagination run wild. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this transformation. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be back soon with more Rock Tap frocks and some more tutorials.